Ramaphosa landed in Harare. 14 days countdown to Mnangagwa's political exit. Really? Mre Zimbabwe. Welcome back pamzinda wevanhu kubva kuvanhu by public demand. The channel where we follow the story all the way down, no matter where it leads. Now, I want to ask you something. When a sitting president from the most powerful country in the region suddenly shows up in your country for a working visit, is it ever just a visit or is it a message? Because on May 3rd, Nezuro, Cyril Ramaphosa landed in Zimbabwe, not for a summit, not for a celebration, not for a public rally, a working visit, closed doors, private farm, no cameras inside. And in Zimbabwe, those are the meetings where the real decisions are made. Because what we are hearing coming out of that meeting changes everything. The meeting, Zimbabwe, what really happened at the farm? Now, officially, this was just a diplomatic engagement, a routine check-in between neighbors. But let's be honest, there is nothing routine about this moment because Emmerson Mnangagwa is facing the biggest political challenge in his presidency. Internally, war veterans are restless, the military is sending signals, ZANU-PF is divided, and externally, the region is watching closely. So Ramaphosa doesn't come alone with handshakes and smiles. He comes with a message. Oh, Zimbabwe. And according to multiple sources, that message was simple. The third term bid must go. Now, this is where it gets serious because what insiders are now suggesting is that Mnangagwa may be preparing to retreat, not publicly yet, not officially, but strategically, under pressure from the African National Congress, ANC, regional leadership, and SADC dynamics. The calculation is changing because the risk is no longer just internal backlash, it is regional isolation. And in Southern Africa, that matters a lot. So suddenly ED 2030 is no longer looking inevitable. It is looking negotiable. But here's the twist. Even if Mnangagwa steps back from the third term, that does not mean he is stepping away from power. Not even close. Because what we are now hearing is a shift in strategy from holding on to power directly to controlling who comes next. And one name keeps appearing in that conversation. Kudakwashi Tagwire. Now, Zimbabwe, think about what that means. Instead of allowing a natural succession, instead of handing over to Constantino Chiwenga, the plan allegedly is to install a loyalist, someone outside the liberation war struggle, someone aligned economically, someone controllable. Family, that is not succession. That is power transfer without losing control. Right, there's a regional red line. SADC draws the line. Now, here is where Ramaphosa's visit comes even more important. Because he was not just speaking as South Africa's president, he was speaking as a regional signal, a messenger, a line in the sand, the message. The message, SADC would not support unconstitutional term extension. That is huge because once the region withdraws legitimacy, everything changes. Investment becomes uncertain, diplomatic cover disappears, political pressure increases, and suddenly what was once a domestic issue becomes a regional crisis. There's the impeachment option, the quiet threat. Now, let's talk about something people are not saying loudly in Zimbabwe. They're not saying it loudly enough. Everyone is talking about coups, military intervention, tanks in the streets, but insiders are pointing to something else, something quieter, something more surgical, impeachment through parliament. If you think about it, it makes sense because it avoids international backlash, military instability, economic shock, and it keeps everything looking constitutional. Now, combine that with reports that sections of the military are not supporting a third term, and suddenly the path becomes clearer. Not a coup, but a controlled removal. Right, let's talk about it's what today is what is 4 to 18, it's 16 days. 16 days count, 14-day countdown. Why May 18th matters? Zimbabwe, everything now comes down to one window. 14 days. Is it 14? It's 16. Yeah, it's 14 days. 14 days. That is it, because around May 18, the Constitutional Amendment Bill comes into play. And that moment is the point of no return. Before May 18, deals can be made, positions can shift, pressure can work. After May 18, lines are drawn. So, what are we watching right now? Is a countdown. What we are watching right now is not just political, but strategic. You see, the guys, the fake smiles, unit or performance. Now, let's address what everyone saw. The images, the optics. Mnangagwa and Chiwenga together, smiling, relaxed, unified, but inside they're calling it something else, fake smiles. Because behind those smiles, there is tension, real tension, the kind that comes from competing ambitions, distrust, and a battle that has not yet been resolved. So, what you are seeing publicly is not necessarily what is happening privately. And in politics, that difference matters. Now, let's bring this back to reality, because while all of this is happening at the top, what is happening to ordinary Zimbabweans? The economy still struggling, government coffers under pressure, journalists facing arrests, workers unpaid, and yet the focus at the top is power, retention, succession, control. And that disconnect is exactly why frustration is rising. Even voices like Nelson Chamisa have pointed to growing anger among young people because they are watching all of this and asking one question: who is actually fighting for us? Now, here is the bigger picture, because Zimbabwe is not isolated. Look at the region: Mozambique, unrest, planned shutdowns; Madagascar, political instability; Southern Africa is under pressure, and South Africa cannot afford crisis next door. So Ramaphosa's visit is not just about Zimbabwe. It is about containment, preventing a domino effect. Because history has shown us when one country destabilizes, others feel it. Family, let me say this clearly. This moment is a turning point, because for the first part, internal resistance is visible, regional pressure is active, strategic timelines are clear, and Mnangagwa is no longer operating in a space of total control. The question now is not whether pressure exists, it is whether he yields to it or fights it. And if he fights it, what happens next? So tell me, family, is this the beginning of the end for ED 2030? Is Ramaphosa here to mediate or to deliver a warning? And if the presidents cannot extend, who really takes over Zimbabwe? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because the next 14 days will define the next 10 years. This is Muzinda Wevan. Yes, Patro Garatiri Pano, fearless, free, pro-democracy, always. Peace.